Hey, I'm Scott. Welcome to my two-family renovation in New England. I'm currently in the midst of a large renovation, structural changes, layout changes, new mechanicals, heating, plumbing, electrical, new windows, etc. You get the point. Part of this renovation is converting this attic space that I'm currently standing in into an additional bedroom. So during this process, we're taking what used to be an insulated floor here, and we're going to be insulating the roof line directly. So the exterior roof is going to be bordering an interior wall or ceiling, however you'd like to look at it. It is at a slant. And then I also do have a portion down behind me that's a flat roof, and that is basically going to be treated exactly the same. I'm going to be doing foam board there. So if I wasn't installing a foam board product, what would another option be? You've all probably heard of it. It'd be spray foam. So I clearly opted not to do spray foam in this case. There's a few good reasons, at least in my eyes. One of which, and probably the biggest, is that it's expensive. Spray foam's an expensive product. Like, the material's expensive. The labor is not exactly cheap either to put it in. It kind of seems like you have to know what you're doing, have the right equipment, stuff like that. So that spray foam comes with a pretty high price tag. There's a few other reasons that I didn't want to do the spray foam. It's not if your roof leaks, it's when. Roofs will eventually leak, especially if you're not replacing them preemptively. So my concern, or say it was even just a mistake, someone put a nail in the wrong spot and you got a little drip coming in. If it was spray foamed here, you may not know about that little drip or leak until it's a really huge major problem, and that could consist of replacing a lot of sheathing or major structural components. Say you never can tell until one of your rafters is basically gone and rotted out and your ceiling's caving in on you. I'm thinking with this product, if there is a roof leak, hopefully this never happens, but if there is, just maybe it will find a path out and leave me like a stain on the ceiling, something that I can see, and at least narrow it down to, hey, I have a leak and it's in this bay. So that's like really one of the benefits I saw of going with this product. So that kind of leads me to one of the other issues that I have with spray foam, is just how permanent of a product it is. It's not something that's easy to work around, or I guess in this case, say I did have a leak and didn't notice until I did have to do some major work to it, and I'm replacing a significant amount of sheathing. So all this sheathing has spray foam adhered directly to the bottom of it, right? What do you do? Are you tearing out massive pieces of expensive spray foam, and how do you put that back? And it's just like it could be a complete disaster in my eyes.
If any repairs or renovations needed to take place, they'd be greatly hindered with the installation of spray foam.
All right, so maybe I sold you on the idea of doing foam board. As you can see behind me, I have a Sika Pro Select. I think it's called R-Max. But basically this is a 2-inch foam board, and it is foil faced on both sides. So this one 2-inch piece will achieve an R-13.1. Here I'm going for an R-38, so 3 2-inch layers of R-13.1 is going to give me an R-39.3. So it just passed what I need to hit. The other, I think, like major brand of foam board you may see is like pinkish purple. I think Owens makes it, but it's a lesser R value. So I think their 2-inch board, because it lacks the foil facing, is an R10, I believe. It's cheaper to do this, but obviously it's going to need a lot of labor. So it's kind of a DIY thing, and you'll be making up the back end. It's still a expensive product. I think this sheet of this product right now is going for about $55. I bought a huge quantity of it, so I was able to get some bulk pricing, but it's not necessarily cheap, but it's cheaper to do it this way compared to paying someone to spray foam all this in. So not gonna lie to you, it is very time consuming, especially what I'm doing here. I have various width bays and a lot of custom cuts, so it's very labor intensive, but it could definitely be worth it. So when it comes to installing this product, you're obviously going to be doing a lot of cutting. Comes in a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet, and you need to make it fit in between your bays. This is what I've been using. It's not at all intended to cut foam board, but it happens to work great. This is just an insulation knife, more intended to cut bat insulation. But this side right here is really working well for me. So everything is just pressure fit. I've been measuring and cutting as precisely as I can, and just hammering it in there. It's everything's been quite the snug fit. If I did happen to come across a place where something was a little loose, it wasn't fitting perfectly, I've been taking like a 2-inch roofing nail and just kind of tacking it up at an angle, and that seems to do the trick. There's a few other methods that you could use to cut foam board. Specifically, using an insulation knife like I was talking about. It does work well with this particular product. I'm no foam board expert, but I think this is it's called polyiso foam, so it is a little bit softer. And say you do end up with like that pink purple stuff from Owens, that is a polystyrene, I believe, so it's a little bit denser. You may not be able to cut it easily with this. But there's score and snap. You can like score it with a razor blade. I did try that initially. With this product, you can cut with a circular saw, a sawzall, a jigsaw, whatever it may be, but those can be a little bit messier. I found that using this with this product, it doesn't really leave as much shrapnel, I guess you could say. Less cleanup, less of a mess, probably less that I'm breathing in. I did rip a few pieces. As you can see here, these are just some 6-inch strips. I'll talk about that in a little bit. So I ripped out on a table saw, had my vacuum hooked up, dust collection, and it's messy. It produces a very fine powdery dust that you don't want to breathe in. You don't want to have to clean it up. It's not fun. So if you don't have to use a blade like that, I'd recommend against it. But I did do it for these uniform pieces that I needed to cut out. It was just far more efficient and came out a lot better instead of cutting it by hand with a blade. I just wanted to talk a little bit about using up your product. You do want to be intentional and mindful about how you're going to be using this. So in this exact set, bay right here, this is more than 24 inches from here to here. So again, I have a 4 foot wide sheet, so I just basically packed this out an extra 4 inches so that I can just rip a sheet almost in half and have a lot less waste in each bay. So be mindful, if you're installing this in just like perfect 16-inch bays and you can just rip a bunch on the saw, that might be a little bit easier, but here this was a little bit different than that. So just be mindful of product use. That was most of the information that I gathered about installing foam board, but I'd also like to share some of the installation that I performed. So we'll get that queued up. But also, if you thought that any of this was informative and you benefited from it, please like the video. It's only going to help other people see it. Also, comment if you have any questions down there. Tell me that I'm being an idiot. I'd love to learn. There's a comment section down there for a reason, so let's use it. So my plan down here is basically there's a joist that goes right across here. All the joists are running in that direction. So I got this piece that actually goes down and around. Can't really see, but so it insulates the side of that last joist, and then basically coming along and installing this piece in the front, and that's going to seal off this eave here. It's no longer a vented installation, so we're just going to seal that off. So you may have noticed that yellow thing inside there. That's actually a tape measure of mine that broke. I thought it'd be cool to leave a little Easter egg behind for the next guy. Who knows? Maybe it'll be 100 years from now. They'll come across this cool old tape measure. It perfectly fit. It was a 25-foot tape, and that's basically the length of the attic here. So I don't know. I thought it'd be cool to leave behind. Cool little idea, a little memento in there. So the entire eave has been foamed off. You can get the spray foam done around the edges there. Just really don't want any outside air mixing at this location. That'd be pretty bad. So also, this is kind of my thought for finding a potential leak. You know, we're gonna have 3 more layers right here, and my thought is kind of that if I say I have a leak further up the bay, that water is gonna travel down the top of the foam, and then it'll hit this foam right here, and then travel down, and then maybe I'll see a leak on the ceiling up there. So that's kind of my thought behind all this. So for the first layer, again, we're just using a 2-inch roofing nail. Very simple stuff. That just makes it through as long as you drive it home. Similar with this is a 4-inch screw, and then I'm using an insulation washer on there. I think Spax makes these ones. So 4-inch screw, I need to make a little bit of room to get through 4 inches of material. So basically, I would just take a hole saw, similar size to the insulation washer, just piercing the surface a little bit, and then coming through and just peeling out just a little bit, just enough to get down to a depth where the screw can hit some wood behind it. But yet this will still have some material left to suck to the other layer. So let me get this other layer up. You can probably notice as I'm putting up these build-out pieces, a lot of dust, and that's because I ripped these pieces down on a table saw, and I mentioned earlier, cutting this material with any sort of like saw or a blade that actually removes a thin slice of material produces so much absurd amount of dust. I'm sure it's not great to breathe in either, but living life on the edge today, so. Yeah, just wanted to mention that. And again, cutting it with this blade, it's not actually removing material. It's really separating the material. So that's again why I recommend going this route if you're cutting a polyiso foam board like this. Just wanted to share something that I find pretty interesting is how they used to mark board lengths with Roman numerals. They'd etch it right into the side of pieces of lumber. I see these all the time throughout the house. I just think they're kind of cool. I appreciate it. I've worked in houses that date back to like the 1600s, and that's how they did it back then. So it's just kind of cool to see a piece of history like that in my own house. I even have an idea where I'm gonna reuse some lumber for handrail up here, and it's gonna have some of those engravings in it. So it should be a fun little project, a cool little project, just to pay homage to the history of the home. So finally got all the spacers in every bay. And it just so happened to work out that I had exactly the right amount of spacers cut. You know, when does something like that happen? You gotta celebrate the little wins too, or else everything just feels like it sucks. But yeah, that was a W right there, the exact right amount. update, getting pretty far. Just wanted to give a good example of how I'm layering all these different panels. So again, it's it's 3 layers. Here's the third final layer in this bay. Got a full 8-footer. Behind that was a shorter, like 4-footer or whatever, and then 8 feet, so that we ended up with a seam here. And then I'll go over this with a full continuous piece, so that seams are falling basically in the middle of another sheet, just so that there's a far less likely chance that air is going to be moving through in between layers, or the worst, getting from our conditioned space on the inside and then getting to that cold surface on the outside. Only got 4 bays left, and man, I can't wait to be done with this. So much done, so little left. I never want to cut a piece of foam board again in my life, ever. I'm gonna do the math out and see how many feet. I bet there's that damn half-mile of foam board I've cut with a frickin' knife. I'm gonna do the math out and let you know. All right, this is disgusting, and I was just kidding about the half-mile, but I've actually cut a half-mile of foam. I can't even wrap my head around that. That's not even including any horizontal cuts. That's just like linear cuts, the ones that are going in line with the bay. A half-mile. What the heck am I doing with my life? After the foam board was actually put up and installed, I came back and ran a bead of spray foam along all of the edges and installed metal tape along any exposed foam. Again, if you remember, there's the strips and seams and a bead of spray foam everywhere. And this is just going to provide us our final air barrier here. Make sure that no conditioned air is mixing and getting into this assembly. That's pretty much a wrap on the foam board installation. I'm so glad to be done with it finally. There's a lot more to come with this project. I'm very far in, but we're about to make this place look pretty, and we're basically going to be at a blank slate. I'm looking to achieve multiple things with this project: affordability, quality, durability, and also making it look damn good. This place is going to look pretty. I'm myself going to be living in this 2-family, so trying to make it look good. I want to live here, and tenants will want to live here if I want to live here. So that's kind of the goal. Make sure that you subscribe. Thanks for sticking around, and hopefully I'll get to see you on some future projects here.